Good morning everyone. What is happening? Today's a bit of a different video. And a video that I've kind of been wanting to go down for a while. I think I've mentioned in the past on some videos that I wanted to take probably more of a different approach in terms of videos that I make. I love making anything to do with vlogging and traveling because it's incredible to have a portfolio of videos to look back on. But I've always mentioned that something that I will take pride in is being able to share and capture my medical school journey since I started applying and hopefully graduating, and then in the career thereafter. So I am currently studying medicine at Bond University. I'm in my first year. We've just finished. Exams were quite stressful, but we got there in the end. And this is basically just how I got there. And then hopefully the videos that I keep producing will be my entire medical school journey, which would be incredible to look back on for my own personal outlook. And if anyone else is interested, then that's a vibe too. My journey was basically started in grade 12. I'm from the Gold Coast, so most people in Australia realise that to get into medicine it starts from grade 11 and 12 when you're applying to universities. I know places in different areas, I'm getting a call. I know places in different areas have kind of interim diplomas and degrees that you got to do. I think in the States you've got to go to college and whatnot. But in Australia, it's basically grade 11, 12, and then apply to uni. If you don't get in directly out of school, then you got to do an undergraduate. So I was planning on attempting to get into medicine straight out of school. I didn't get the OP that I'd hoped for, both due to probably not doing well enough personally and also the influence that your school has on your overall position. They don't have that system anymore now. They have the ATAR system, which is slightly different, and then there's a host of other systems that other Bond medical students have done, like IB, Cambridge, NCIS, or NCA, maybe. I don't know. It's the New Zealand system. So instead of doing biomedicine here, to get into medicine, I decided that it'd probably be best to go do New Zealand and do the first year health science program at the University of Otago. Now they get like 3,000 students that pool into this first year Otago health science degree, and then based on your academic performance, that's what stratifies and prioritizes who gets into what degree and what offers you get. So the best academic results will apply for dentistry and medicine. Medicine has the highest GPA cutoff, but it has a pretty low UCAT threshold and no interview. In contrast, dentistry has a lower GPA cutoff in the first year degree, but it has a much higher UCAT threshold and also requires an interview. So arguably in that degree, dentistry is even harder to get into than medicine. But in saying that, I thought it was a much more of a better decision to travel and to scratch that itch that I had to travel and study overseas and only do 1 year of a undergraduate degree and then enter into second year medicine, because health science first year at Otago is effectively their first year medicine. It's just all your typical biomedical sciences. But the problem is, in terms of university entrance, it's incredibly competitive. Incredibly competitive. You've got 2 medical schools in New Zealand that offer the MBBS, Bachelor of Medicine, Bachelor of Surgery program. So effectively you're going up against the whole of New Zealand, which is, it's great if you love that kind of pressure, but unfortunately it's an arduous year for a lot of people. For me, I loved it. 80-hour week, study week, competitive kind of nature, not going out. I would say in some sense it gets toxically competitive in the sense that people don't share their kind of advice or their study or anything like that because they don't want you to do well and they want to do well themselves, which isn't a vibe. But to be kind of surrounded in that environment of just pure competitiveness is both stimulating and thrilling all at the same time. So I really enjoyed my experiences over there. Obviously, as an Australian, traveling to New Zealand comes with its own perks, which was even better. I stayed at Arana College, which was amazing. I loved staying in college as a young kind of adolescent, just moving. College was perfect for me. You met so many different people. Arana was a very academic college, so they supported your pursuit into medicine, which was just great. So after about 4 months, this was in 2020, COVID hit. I was aware of COVID when I was in New Zealand, but it wasn't until a few months in that it became problematic for both my accommodation in New Zealand, because New Zealand went into extreme shutdown, so they shut down all their colleges. And as an Australian student, that was the only accommodation I had, and I couldn't fly home because I wanted to study at this university, and they hadn't offered online programs yet. So that was just not ideal, to say the least. But I was traveling with my best friend Joseph, who was an Australian as well, and his family was lucky enough to have a place there that we moved to for a few weeks. It was one of the most beautiful places that I've ever stayed at. It was on a cliffside, no Wi-Fi, out in this farm area. It was incredible. So we stayed there for a fair amount of time, and I had literally the USB stick with all my PowerPoint slides for my uni that I had to learn for the exam. I had to do it so old school because there wasn't much Wi-Fi out there, and I didn't have access to all the classes and lectures. They just gave me the PowerPoint slides and said good luck, which was both, now that I think about it, probably one of the best things that could happen for me, because it's really kind of taught me how to learn on your own, which I think is a very important characteristic. So about 4 months in, 6 weeks later, I kind of said, okay, this is impacting my ability to pursue medicine greatly, because I wasn't getting the same level of education that everyone else who was pursuing medicine trying to get in was. And then I made the decision to come back to Australia. And when I came back to Australia, I wasn't surrounded by anyone trying to get into medicine, because they were all over back in New Zealand. So it was incredible. I sat in my room and effectively studied every single day, every single week, 60 hours plus every week, and it was amazing. I was lucky enough to get the GPA cutoff, which that year I think was around 97% for your top 7 out of the 8 subjects you did. Very, very lucky to get those results that I did. And then I went to apply to get into medicine, got my offer, was very happy. I was overwhelmingly happy to get into medicine at the Otago program. And I went to apply to go back the next year. Unfortunately, New Zealand's border restrictions were incredibly tight, and they weren't offering anyone the ability to get in, which just sucked. It just killed it for me, because I spent a year not traveling, well, in some part traveling, but studying my ass off in order to get into this degree. I got an offer and I wasn't able to go back due to the borders. But I mean, that's something that is in some sense out of my control. I took the year off. The following year, so I had done 1 year, I took the year off into 2021 was my gap year. I couldn't travel much because we were still in lockdown, and if you watch previous videos, that's the stuff you'll see of me traveling, going to Adelaide, doing all these domestic trips, which is incredible. And then I landed in 2022. I was stoked. I was going back to New Zealand. That was where my career and the next 5 years were ahead of me. I applied to get an exemption, and I got blocked again by the borders. 2 years later from COVID, and they still weren't letting in a non-permanent resident and a New Zealand citizen. So at that point in time, I just said, screw this. I'm not deferring my degree in New Zealand for 2 years. I applied to Bond. I did their psychometric test. I met their academic results. I did my interview. And at last I got a place at Bond, and I was so happy. I live on the Gold Coast, Bond. I can see out of the window to my left. I was very, very happy. Finally, I ended up getting into medicine. I've just completed first year at Bond, which is very frustrating that they don't offer the ability to credit your subjects, given I've already done these subjects before. However, the first year's done, and I feel like now I've got a lot to offer in terms of my guidance when applying to Bond. So I think I'm going to roll over a few years, not years, what am I on about? I'm going to roll over a few videos in terms of my opinions of Bond, the interview program, the psych test, all that kind of stuff. I know the Bond application is coming up soon, so if anyone sees these videos and is keen to discuss all things Bond, just reach out. I'll happily call you and talk to you about the program and whatnot. And I'll probably do a few videos talking about my experience at Bond compared to first year at Otago. And yeah, just use my experiences as a platform to hopefully assist other people. But here, I'm in medicine now, and I've got 3 years and 9 months left, and I'm keen to record, to film, to capture it all. To have a catalogue of my medical experience would just be ideal. So this is the first video. This was my long, actually it's probably in a lot of ways short compared to the pathway a lot of people take to get into medicine. But this was my path in, and I'm here now, and that's a vibe.